Mackay.
Hello, how are you?
Hey. Well, I'm doing all right on this end. How have you been?
I'm doing okay. Got a little bit of a cold, so I'm glad we're virtual.
Oh, good point. Oh, oh man, it is no fun to have a cold when you're in a warm weather part of the year. So I'm really sorry that that's what you're dealing with right
Yeah, I'll be okay.
now. All right, I hope you are able to shake that off and yeah, start feeling back to normal again very soon.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, hey, why don't you tell me about just what is it you want to talk about today? What's going on, and how can I be of help to you?
Well, I was talking to you before about kind of this idea of comparing myself to my boss and feeling like she, was kind of trying to clone me into her role. And we had a really good conversation yes, yesterday or the day before. Um, Day before, so Thursday, I believe.
Okay.
And it was the time for ongoing feedback at our job. So we have quarterly meetings where, it's, formal for human resources. You have to put in notes. The employee puts in notes, the supervisor puts in notes. You come together, you have a meeting, you talk about it. And it was really interesting. Like, everything that I had felt before, I don't know, this meeting was totally opposite. And it kind of left me feeling like I don't know what to do because I'm not getting the same responses that I got. So when I was sharing with her about how I was feeling about moving up and advancing and maybe I'm not going to stay here, she was completely supportive. And I had expected her to, I don't know, kind of coax me into filling in her shoes.
Mm-hmm.
And she didn't do that. And I didn't know what to do with it. It was very, it was good, but it kind of, I don't know, made me, it put me on the edge a little bit more. Like kind of waiting for the other shoe to drop. Like, this isn't right. Something's going to happen. She's going to say something, else. I don't know if, I'm assuming that's just me and me projecting onto her, but I just admit that that's what happened. Like, it was weird.
Okay, so let me make sure I'm understanding. So in this meeting, you had expressed your thoughts about the possibility of maybe taking over her role, but really expressing that you're unsure about it because there may be a possible move, and so right now you can't make that commitment, and you were expecting a different response than what you got.
Yes.
Okay. And so in that moment of getting that response, how did that make you feel?
Trying to put myself back in the moment. I don't know if this will make sense, but it made me feel more responsible and autonomous over my own career in a way that I've never felt before.
Okay.
With her, I've been used to being on the defense.
Okay.
And reacting to her expressions of maybe what she hopes or wants from me moving forward. And this time was totally opposite, where she didn't do any of that. She just, responded like, hey, Makai, no matter what you decide to do, whether it's to take over my role when I leave or you leave the institution altogether, I want you to know that I support you, and I'm trying to find out ways that I can continue to support you because she knows I'm in school. So, she mentioned about, being very impressed with how I articulate what I want out of my schooling, and then ways that I've been adapting at work to, build relationships with colleagues. It just went totally in a way that I did not expect. So I wonder, like, what's wrong with me that I'm like on defense all the time?
Okay. Were you hoping for a response that would make you feel more valued and appreciated?
I think that I'm used to responses that don't make me feel that way,
Okay.
which is why I think I'm always guarded in that respect. I'm ready. I'm at the ready all the time to defend myself, because while I can value criticism, some criticism I've received from her, just, I don't know, I didn't agree with it. It makes sense, but she's such a strong personality. Like, it doesn't matter how I feel. So I think I've learned to be defensive.
Okay. So if I'm understanding you correctly, you feel like the responses that you get from your supervisor, regardless of how they're worded, are usually in the form of a criticism. Is that correct? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Can you think of a time where you and your supervisor have been discussing something? Maybe you're going over a project, or you're talking through a situation, and your supervisor has said something to you that perhaps you haven't interpreted as a criticism.
Let's see. Yeah, actually, in this meeting, she brought up something that happened that I forgot about. So there was a time where there was miscommunication between me and another person about my responsibilities on a project. And I completed one part of that project and thought I was done.
Mm-hmm.
And the person came back and said, "Oh, are you doing this piece, this piece, this piece?" And I was just kind of caught off guard. And I had talked to her about it and told her what my response was going to be, and she said, "Okay." So I responded to the person and said, "There must be some miscommunication. I apologize for that, but no, I'm not taking on this piece. I've done this part. This other part is on you." And she brought that up yesterday and mentioned that this happened like at least 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, "I want you to know that you did a really good job in your response. It was very professional, very concise." And that was another thing that kind of blew me out the water. And I'm like, this woman has never done this before. And I had to really, in the midst of the conversation, I really struggled to adapt. Like, I went in defensive, as I always do, and she wasn't giving me that energy. I don't know. It was strange. It was new and it was strange and I was uncomfortable.
Okay. But you're saying, if I'm understanding you correctly, that even in that moment where she brought up that recent situation with you and the other coworker, that even in that particular time, or as she's recapping that you were anticipating, maybe you were anticipating a a criticism, and it's almost like your defenses had already gone up, like you're bracing yourself for that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Do you find this happening with other coworkers as well?
Not my immediate team members, but yeah, I would say like outside people who have to have some kind of involvement in a piece of writing that I'm working on. I do. I guess I really do that. I kind of brace myself for disaster, and sometimes, wow, sometimes it's not even really necessary. Wow, yeah, I actually do that quite often, and I don't know, maybe I don't know why I do that. Yeah, I don't know why I do that.
Do you find that this also happens with relationships at home?
Yeah. Actually, yeah. I don't know where that started. Kind of bracing myself for the worst across the different relationships experiences. I don't know if it's kind of like a protective mechanism I might have that I wasn't aware about before. And it might be because I've been hurt a lot, interpersonally and professionally, that it's automatic in that regard.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So this isn't really like a defensive mechanism, perhaps, that you are using, kind of an automatic response, that, okay, because, such and such a thing happened, this is just going to be my response automatically. This is kind of the defense that I'm going to have. And, this is a common thing, that people will struggle with. We'll have these automatic thoughts, automatic words that come to our mind, that even though maybe we haven't heard everything all the way through, these thoughts, these words, just seem to have the strongest emotional charge, right? And so it affects our outlook on some things. It affects how we view our relationships with others. We'll see them more negatively. It might affect our work performance, and that might take a negative turn. It affects how we view ourselves, and we'll have a negative effect on ourselves. So let me ask you this then. When do you find these negative thoughts coming to you? Is there a certain time of the day, for example, that you may be more apt to it, or being in a certain location? Like, when do you find that this pattern tends to happen?
Always just before whatever meeting I'm supposed to have with an individual.
Okay.
Or, so like that would happen with my boss. So anytime we're supposed to meet about something, when I'm supposed to have other people review my work, so external people involved in a piece of writing that I'm doing, right before I send them a draft is when I start having those thoughts, or bracing myself. And then at home, with my wife if I know that there's something important that I want to talk to her about. And so concerned about her response, I brace myself for rejection of my idea or whatever I'm thinking about. So it's always, the thoughts always happen just right before whatever event is supposed to happen.
Okay. What do you think is or could be the worst case scenario? You know, if you're going into a meeting, you know, if you were to play out what you think might happen, what could be the worst case scenario? Or if you're going to have a important discussion with your spouse, what's the worst case scenario?
So at work, I think worst case scenario would be just feeling completely isolated. Like, you know, my voice hasn't been heard. I'm just out here by myself. Maybe I'm the crazy one, and there's nowhere else I could turn because I certainly wouldn't kick up anything to HR at that level just because I'm having a disagreement with my boss. Okay. So there's that. And at home, I think worst case scenario would be that my wife and I would kind of avoid each other, which is totally unsettling in a two-party. Like, how do you not cross paths every 2 seconds? Yeah. Okay. Those would be the worst cases for me.
Okay, all right. And in your experience, have either one of those scenarios ever come to that conclusion?
They have. There's been times where my wife and I have not disagreed. Well, we disagreed, and it did happen where, you know, we kind of just bypassed each other intentionally because it was just tense. But after a day or two, we come back together and usually talk and resolve the issue. Okay. And at work, I feel like it's been more, the onus has been more on me to kind of be more assertive with my boss, to find resolutions and kind of just release it on my end. She's just not that kind of person that she cares, but it's the way that she cares that you have to understand her. Like, you know, like if she said something really crash, or you know, hurt in the moment, she's not the type of person that will come back and apologize for saying something hurt. Okay. But if you go back and tell her your experience with her, then she'll acknowledge what happened. But, you know, everybody, including myself, you know, I don't always have the energy to do that. Like, I don't want to always go back and say what my experience is. Like, how come you can't see for yourself? What you said was hurtful, you know? So, yeah, sometimes I felt like maybe I'm just too sensitive. But just...
Okay. You know, Makai, I'm wondering if there's some way that maybe we can work together to perhaps maybe change or alter the way that you are thinking as you enter into those situations. Here's an idea. What if, let's say in the coming week or so, if those type of situations come up, and I'm sure that they would with, you know, either at work or at home or, you know, whatever the situation may be, where you know you're entering into what might be a challenging conversation. Okay. And what if you took some time before going into that conversation and maybe just journaled some thoughts, and maybe just to even prompt your thinking, maybe you can ask yourself a few questions and journal your thoughts. Maybe the questions that you can consider are this. What's the worst thing that can happen?
Okay.
What's the best thing that can happen? And then the third question could be, in all likelihood, what is going to happen? Okay? So you're basically looking at a worst case scenario, a best case scenario, and what is more likely, what should or may, how it may actually play out. Okay? Now, obviously, we can't predict that accurately, but at least it gives us a goal, I guess, in a sense, in terms of, okay, this is hopefully what I'd like to see it play out to be. And maybe, yeah, so as you're entering into those conversations this week, maybe, yeah, like I said, maybe just journal those thoughts. And then next time when we get together, we can talk through those situations and see what happened. And that could be a step towards just helping you in your thought process to not focus on potential negative outcomes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Yeah.
All right?
That's manageable. I can certainly do that. I think that I'll try to ask myself these questions at work this week and also at home.
Okay.
I think it might be a good comparison to see if there's overlap or differences, maybe,
Yeah.
in how I answer them. So, yeah, I'm all for it. Thank you for that exercise. I think it'll be worthwhile for me.
All right. Okay. Well, Makai, do you have any other questions for me today?
I don't. Thank you so much for the time that you take to talk to me and help me sort some of this stuff out.
It's always a pleasure to speak with you, and I hope you're able to shake this cold and get back to feeling 100% as well. Sometimes even when we're sick, it does tend to, kind of alter the way that we see things,
Yeah.
And when we're not feeling well, maybe things are maybe a whole lot worse. They seem a whole lot worse than what they are. And I don't say that to downplay how you feel.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
But sometimes even just within our physical illness, it does change that as well. All right. Well, Makai, be on the lookout as always for my note for the week, and I'll look forward to reading your response as well, and then of course the calendar invite to make our next appointment. Okay.
Sounds good.
All right. You have yourself a good rest of the day, and I hope to talk to you soon.
Thank you. All right. Bye-bye.
Okay. Goodbye.